The bearded dragons and corn snakes and ball pythons, they get all the love and a whole spotlight. But what about the unpopular reptiles? The ones that should get the spotlight and definitely don't. Today, we're talking about the top 5 unpopular reptiles that are going to be way more popular and definitely deserve the love. My name's Adam, this is Diamond, you're watching Wickens Wicked Reptiles, stick around. I think that there are reptiles that are going to gain popularity that are unpopular now, but people are going to see the virtue and going to see why they deserve the love, and that's going to happen. Now, this video is more just about the unpopular ones that might take a while. If you want to see the ones that are going to blow up in 2023, I'll make that video. Just leave a comment below and I can make the top 5 most popular reptiles of 2023. I kind of have an idea which ones those are going to be, but for this video, let's start off with number 5, Knobtail Geckos. Now there's a couple different species of knobtails, or a few species of knobtail geckos. These are Australian animals, so they're from Australia, which is great, because if you're from Australia, you already know Australians can only keep animals that are endemic to Australia, for the most part. So you guys can have these too. It's an inclusive list today. Not only that, but look how cute they are. How they didn't make this video here, the cutest reptiles list, shame on me. I should have problems sleeping at night because I did them such a disservice. They should have definitely been on that list. I personally like the Levies or Levi's or Levy, that species, over the Wheelerai just because of the way that they look. And of course, there are different morphs in each of the species. Now, this is a tiny gecko. We're talking about 5.5 inches, something like that. And what's really cool is they can live on sand. Now, of course, do your research because there are different ways to keep them on different substrates. And because I have this little guy here, which needs a name. What should I name this guy? This is a Levi's or Levy's, Levi, what the species name is right here. If you want to name this guy, throw your suggestion downstairs in the comment section. I'd love to hear it. Maybe we can do a vote in the community tab. Either way, I like this guy. He seems not to be super skittish, but sometimes they're gonna wave their tail up. They're gonna put their head down, kind of like a dog when they're about to play, you know? And they wave their tail around, and some of them will even bark at you, a loud vocalization. So, because they don't reproduce readily, or people aren't really putting a lot of effort into it as of right now on a grand scale, they are a little bit expensive. So, maybe we'll start to see the popularity go up, and then the price will too, and then the price will eventually drop. Anyway. That's for another video. Let's move on. Number 4, box turtles. Now, turtle people are gonna laugh because box turtles have been popular forever. And I'm talking about North American box turtles specifically. Three-toads, ornates, like there's a whole bunch of different ones. Personally, I think they're amazing. I think box turtles are just as cool as tortoises. And the difference, well, there's several, but the main one in terms of care is box turtles are gonna eat things like insects and vegetables, where most tortoises are only going to eat a vegetarian type diet. They're herbivores in the most part. Hay if they're things like sulcatas, leafy greens if they're things like cherry heads, although cherry heads and redfoots also eat pieces of protein. Anyway, but this isn't a care guide for tortoises. I think that box turtles, because they're kind of small, 5 to 8 inches, depending on the species, because they're different ones depending on where you live, I just think that they're kind of perfect because you can keep them in an enclosure that isn't super big, although they do need room to move. So, for example, they're about the size of, say, like, well, I guess smaller than a bearded dragon by a lot, but you'd want to give them a bigger enclosure than a bearded dragon sometimes because they do move around quite a bit and they need that room to move. And of course, they're going to get fat if you overfeed them pretty quick and they don't have room to exercise. So keep an eye on your box turtle for that. But the fact that it's kind of like a tortoise in that it's not aquatic at all. So it's kind of like a land dwelling type turtle, because all tortoises are turtles, but not all turtles are tortoises. We're really getting off track. I'm so sorry. Overall, what I was trying to say is they're a little bit easier to keep than some tortoises, just because, well, they don't need as huge of spaces, because a lot of tortoises get really big. Sulcatas, for example. Even things like cherry heads need way more space than a box turtle would need inside. And you can keep them outside, of course, because they do need a natural UVB, or they need a UVB bulb if you can't give them natural UVB all year. But natural UVB is almost always better. I prefer to have mine out in the sun if I can. I do have enclosures that I keep him outside in the sun all summer long here in Southern Ontario, Canada. Believe it or not, it doesn't snow constantly here. Oh, and by the way, they're adorable. They're super duper cute. Number 3, Gopher Snakes. Bull snakes get all the love.
Oh, bull snakes, they're big and heavy-bodied.
Gopher snakes are also just as cool. They're part of the same family, Pituophis, I believe is how you pronounce it, and they're big, and they're attitudey, and they're hissy, and they're huffy, and they're puffy, and they'll rear up, kind of like a rattlesnake will, and they strike really quick, but also they can be subdued and gentle, and just these big, gentle giants of the colubrid family from North America. So you're gonna find these mostly in the western part of North America, and I believe some of them go into Mexico as well, and into Canada in the north. But either way, you're not gonna, this isn't something that you go to Asia to have to find. You can find these in your own backyard in a lot of places. Like Sonoran gopher snakes are my favorite species. There's albinos of the Sonorans and different variations and different colorations and morphs. But either way, they're kind of a more native species for most people who watch this in North America. And being that they get up to 6 feet and they're a heavy-bodied snake, I just think that a big colubrid like that is so close to home, and something that you can find a lot of morphs in, and we're going to find more morphs available, especially being allowed, no matter what happens with CITES, if you're allowed to collect out in the wild, you're able to get those morphs into the collection here in North America, or in the US anyway, or Canada, wherever they're found, and you don't have to worry about crossing borders with them. So anyway, I just think they're awesome. If you want a big colubrid, gopher snakes. Number 2. Spadefoot toads. I love spadefoot toads. I used to talk about them all the time. Another North American treat. You find these guys in Canada, the US, Mexico. And these guys are spadefoot toads. They're called that because they have what are basically spades. They're like these keratin type projections, growths on the bottom of their back feet. And what they do is they kind of shimmy into the dirt and use those feet in order to help them get under that dirt. Now, my main gripe with them is I have a pair. I never see them because they're always buried. Except for at night sometimes. They'll take the lid off their enclosure and then they'll just pop up and then there they are, looking for insects. In the wild, certain species will live underneath a lake for 2 years, wait for a long, long rainfall, which happens very seldomly. They'll come out, they'll eat, they'll breed, and then back under the lake they go. So it just depends what species you get. There's, Easterns, and that's the ones that I have, by the way. There's a whole bunch of different ones, couches, like they're just really cool and they're really cheap. I think I bought the pair that I have now for $40 for the pair, an adult pair. I've never got them to breed, but I don't think that's why I want to keep them anyway. I just like the fact that they're a little bit derpy. If you take them out to kind of walk around, they hop and walk-ish. It's just a weird locomotion. They're going to eat insects. They're going to be mostly nocturnal. I think that they're really cool, maybe not as a display animal, but an animal that if you really like to study and look at and photograph, these guys are your guys because they don't hop around really in terms of just, they sit still and let you photograph them, which is why the B-roll here is kind of cool. Anyway, let's move on. Number 1, sort of unpopular, actually already gaining a little bit of popularity, reptile, garter snakes. Now, I think that garter snakes are going to be big eventually because they're a smaller colubrid, sometimes 3 feet, maybe a little bit bigger, sometimes even smaller. They're generally, depending on the species that you get, going to eat things that, I don't know, like frozen tilapia or frog legs or things you can buy at the grocery store where you don't have to feed them rodents if you don't want to. They're going to use basking spots because they are diurnal, so they're going to be out during the day. They move around quite a bit. They're pretty energetic. They're fun to watch eat. They're fun to watch move around. They're easy to breed. They're live bearing, which means that they don't lay eggs. They give live birth. Garter snakes, I think, because of the size, because of the fact that in captivity, they're probably not going to musk on you like they would in the wild, because although they're rear fang venomous, which sounds cool, they're not dangerous to humans. If you're a toad, bad news bears. They're going to take those rear fangs and they're going to kind of administer their very weak toxin, but that is very strong to fish and toads and frogs and amphibians, depending on the species. That's pretty cool, but they're not going to hurt you. And they're probably not going to bite you anyway. Although they can be quick, they can be flighty. Overall, once you get them eating, and you can switch them onto rodents, although certain species are probably better off with fish and amphibians, again, do your research. Do your research, because certain species can't handle the fat quantities of a rodent. they'd rather have amphibians. But again, that's why I give these things to you. I say, hey, look at this species, and then you go and you do your own research and you become a master of that species before you get it. Don't just watch some bald idiot in his basement tell you that you should get something or tell you that something's cool and then go ahead and get it. I'm telling you, don't get anything until you research it first. So there you go. Those are the unpopular but deserve more popularity, deserve more love reptiles. Let me know what you think in the description below. Should we do another one? Should we do that video where we're talking about the ones that'll blow up next year? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd really appreciate it. As always, a special thanks to the Patreon supporters. You guys get discounts on merch, extra videos, you guys get behind the scenes stuff from Asia and all those videos extra early, and you know about the special reptiles in my collection that I haven't talked about yet. For as little as $1 a month, you get all that and more, and because we do videos, well, I guess more often now, you'll see them when they pop out, Mondays and Thursdays, and then okay. See you in the next one.